Hello, my scrappy friends. How are you? This is Terry Marcus with the Yaya Collection, and I'm coming to you today to do a tutorial on putting together this little 6x6 chunky mini album. I posted it earlier in the month on my channel and had some requests for a tutorial. So it's probably going to be a 3-part tutorial, but we're going to learn how to put the cover together, the hinges on, and make the signatures, the 6 signatures that go in here. So that's what we're going to work on today. So thank you for joining me. The first thing you'll need is 2 pieces of chipboard that are cut at 6x6. I use a guillotine to cut my chipboard so I don't ruin my blade in my other cutter. You use whatever you're comfortable with. This is 30 point because it's a small book. I didn't use really heavy chipboard. So you need 2 pieces of 6x6 and 1 piece that's 3.5 by 6. This will be the spine and this will be the front and back cover. So you're going to cover the one side completely with tape. So I haven't done this one yet. I'm going to do that one with you. You want to make sure that it's completely covered in tape because you want the paper to adhere very well to it. If you have dexterity issues, you can get sheets of this and use a sheet. I think they come in 8.5 by 11 if I'm not mistaken. And that would make it a whole lot easier. If you have dexterity issues, you may only have one hand, you may have arthritis, whatever the issue is, and that might make it easier. I know that a company called Scrap and Create carries it. I'm sure that Amazon does. You might check with your local store too. I get my tape from my local store, but they don't carry all the bigger sizes, so I will order that from scoretape.com when it's on sale. So you want to make sure that this is all burnished down really well. And then you're going to need to get paper for your front and your back cover. So you want at least 1 inch on all around this to make sure you can cover it. So if I set it on my mat 1 inch in and 1 inch up and put the spine down and put the other cover down, I know I'm going to need a piece of paper that's at least 18 inches by 8 inches. So what I have, because paper comes in 12 by 12s and 8.5 by 11. However, I do know that Cricut has 24-inch 12 by 24 paper, and I do buy it. When it's on sale, I will buy the 12 by 24 paper from Cricut. It makes it much cheaper per 12 by 12 sheet if I cut them in half or if I needed a longer sheet. But anyway, so these are 2 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. And in order to get them long enough, we're going to have to join them. So I take my 1/4 inch tape, run it along this one edge, burnish it down nice and smooth. And then you join the 2 of them. I come to this one little place. You can kind of see the shininess of the tape and adhere this. I try to keep it on a line on my table here so I see that I'm keeping it straight. And you can still pivot at this point. And then I just lay it down. And then, as always, burnish, burnish, burnish. Okay. There we go. Now, I'm one of those people that like my spine to be in the middle. But first, I want to know how far down to come. So I typically take a pencil and will mark an inch in pencil so I know. So I come in an inch because I want an inch on the side there. And then I do the same thing here. So as I'm laying down my cover, I will know where, at least in one place, there's an inch. Keep my ruler here. Again, make sure this is burnished down really well. I do also use my wet glue when I'm doing this. It gives me a little bit of time to manipulate the pieces to make sure they're exactly where I want them. So again, we're starting with the spine. Get this lined up. Put some glue. The glue merely gives me some time to move it around. Okay. Center it. Keep it straight. And there you go. Then I use the burnishing tool to just make sure it's adhered really well. Then you want to do the same thing with both of your covers. Your cover and your spine are probably the two most important parts of an album. The spine, of course, is the workhorse of the album, but the cover gets a lot of wear and tear if you pull it in and out or open and close it a lot. See, that side didn't come up, so I just moved to a different side. If it doesn't want to cooperate with me, I'll find somebody that does. There we go. Sticky, sticky. All right. So I'll get on the edges here. I just kind of rub my fingers and make sure it's all even. Again, I use my wet glue just to give me some time. Between my ruler and my line. And I've got a piece of my chipboard here because I need about 1/8 of an inch between the cover and the spine, excuse my head, to make sure I have enough room for when it opens that the edge of the cover can get in there. So I keep a piece of scrap. Of course, this ruler has 1/8 of an inch on it, but you want to make sure that you can at least get that in there. Make sure you've laid it down straight. So these are 2 pieces of chipboard, 30 point, 6 by 6, and then the spine is 3.5 by 6. It's a really chunky little book. It's going to have 6 signatures in it, so you need a lot of spine to handle that and give yourself enough room to put gussets in so you can embellish it. We had a really stormy afternoon. We're on the west coast of Florida. So typical rainy part of our year. I grew up in Miami, So when I was a kid, we had storms every afternoon, it seemed like, coming in off the ocean, off the Gulf. All right, again, glue to give me some time to manipulate it. And this is my art glitter glue. I get it from my local store, the Paper Inn, and I get it from May Made It. So it just depends. If Marjorie doesn't have the great big bottles, I'll get them from May and get the littler ones. Okay, again, we want about 1/8 of an inch or so between. Get it laid down straight. Can't even see that seam. Once we get it all decorated, you will. Now, it doesn't really have to be in the middle here. You could have started over here. I just like mine in the middle of my spine. So now I'm going to measure 1 inch off of my cover, because I need lead in. Make a mark. And 1 inch over here. I have a friend that does junk journals, and she says, I'll leave all the measuring and preciseness to you. I think it's funny. I don't think of myself as being precise, but and her books are spectacular. All right, so I need 1 inch, like I said, around to fold over on our cover. You don't want a whole lot more than that. And I save every scrap because you can use it to put your ephemera on and make it sturdier, to make journaling cards, just all kinds of things. So I don't throw anything away until I'm done. All right, now you want to start training your paper. So I push down on my mat and roll it up. Like your hair with a new hairstyle. It needs to kind of get used to it, or I was an interior designer. When you make drapes, you have to take a flat piece of fabric and make it into a drape. It has to, those pleats, it has to get used to how you want that fabric to bend and fold. And so you're doing the same thing here with your paper. Your paper's fibers, and you need to train it. So take your bone folder. Make sure you're nice and tight against the cardboard. Over here, I start on the short sides. So my neighbor's yard is getting mowed, if you hear that. All right. So now I push from the center and out at an angle. Get my crease. I start on the long sides for this. Again, this is your album. If you do it a different way, then do it your way. I think all of us kind of play with different techniques all the time, and when we find one we like better, we change to that. So all right. So we're going to put, the first thing we're going to do is these squares. This one's a little oblong because of that side's a little more than 1 inch. But notice that in these corners, you've got a square. We're going to nip those out. So I cut at a little bit of an angle. And then it would be kind of like if you were putting a box together. See how you'd have your corners? This is a technique I learned from Tamra at Scrap and Create. And I really like how my corners turn out this way. All right. So on this side, I'm just going to use 3/8 inch tape. Now this, I don't think you could do the solid sheet. So if you have mobility issues, maybe cutting it in shorter pieces would help you. Just experiment around and figure out what works for you. Not mobility. There you go. Alright, so I'm not going to use glue on this. I'm just going to push up and over at an angle to get it to lay down smoothly. I want to make sure that over here is nice and smooth. Oh, I did forget one thing though. I should have put some glue along here. It just makes it a little nicer and helps keep it from cracking. So start in the center, go at an angle. There, the outside looks great. Same thing on the ends. Wanted to make sure that would lay down and look right. Okay, so see what a nice corner that makes? I'll nip off that little fuzz there. But it really does make a really beautiful corner, that technique. Center out. And again, 2 more beautiful corners. Okay, at this point I don't do anything with bending it. I take my scorer, my big one, and I just kind of start to make some more creases where it's going to eventually fold, and then I set it aside to dry. Now we're going to work on the hinge. The hinge is the workhorse of your album because it's going to get all the wear and tear of opening and closing all the time. So we're going to take, you have two pieces that are 5.5 by 11. And just like we did on the cover, I'm going to put a little piece right here on the edge of 1/4 inch tape. Line it up on my grid. Line this page up on my grid and lay it down. Then you're going to need your scoreboard. Then you're going to start scoring. So you're going to come in 1.5 inches. That's going to be your anchor in your book. And you're going to come in another 1/2 inch, so that'll make you at 2 inches. And that score line is going to give you a way to line it up. Now you're going to do 2 3/4 inch ones, so you'll be 2 3/4 and 3.5. Another 1/2 inch, put you at 4. So what you have here is this is hinge 1, this is the gusset, and this is a gusset kind of. So you're at 4 inches, you're going to do 3/4, so 4 3/4, another 3/4 makes you at 5.5, and then a 1/2 inch makes you at 6. So that's hinge number 2. Okay, now we're at 6 3/4, 7.5, and 8. That's hinge number 3. 8 3/4, 9.5, and 10. That's hinge number 4. 10 3/4, 11.5, and 12 gives you hinge 5. And then fold it on that last 1/2 inch one so you can get it up in here tight. Make sure it's up against here tight. So we've got another hinge to go. So we're going to do 3/4 inch. One and 1/2 inches. A 1/2 inch is a 2. And then 1.5 inches would be at 3.5. and that's hinge number 6. All right, so you have 1.5 inches, you have a 1/2 inch, you have 2 3/4, 1/2 inch, 2 3/4, a 1/2 inch, 2 3/4, 1/2 inch, 2 3/4, and on and on. Each of the 3/4, the two of them together make a hinge. So we can cut this now. And see, we needed a piece of paper 15.5 inches long. So that's why we had to put this together. And we saved this piece of paper. Okay, now we start making our hinge. So where you have the 2 3/4 together, you're gonna fold that and burnish. That's a mountain fold, where you fold it up. See how it looks like a mountain? So just worry about those, where you've got your 2 hinge sides together, mountain fold. Make sure it's nice and straight. And burnish it. Another mountain fold. Make sure it's laying there nice and straight. And burnish. Number 4. Number 5. So if you've got 24-inch paper, use it. Nothing wrong with it. If not, then this is how you do it. Okay, so that's our 6 hinges. Now we're gonna glue them. So this is your top of your hinge. Well, here, let me show you. So here's this 1/2 inch on either side. Those are valley folds. That's what it'll start looking like. This is the gusset that'll give you space between your signatures. So this is what we've done. This, you've got 1.5 inches under here, and then this is this first 1/2 inch we did. Then this is 2 3/4 making this one. Then this is this gusset. This is the hinge for here. And then this is this gusset. And those gussets are what allow you to put stuff in here and this to come out and be thicker. So that's why you need them. So take your hinges and put them together and rock them on those 1/2 inch gussets. Do not bend on this last 1/2 inch or on this first 1/2 inch. It's there to help us get it into the book correctly. Okay, so now you can kind of see hinge, gusset, hinge, gusset. And we're gonna put tape on the hinges. I put it here, kind of in the middle. They're 3/4 of an inch and I've got 3/8 inch tape. I could use 1/2 inch tape. But I didn't get it out, so we're not going to. I will not use wet glue. So there's one hinge, there's 2 hinges, there's my 3rd hinge. If I'm going too fast for you, just slow it up and watch it back slower, or rewind it. You can watch it as many times as you need to. If you have any questions, just comment and I will get back to you. And then this is our last hinge. Ease your hinges together and burnish. Another time I'll teach you how to figure out how much paper you need for a hinge. For somebody who hates math, everything I do in my life requires math. Thought being an interior designer would just be fun, picking colors and fabrics. Everything was math. All right, so there's your hinge. Here's our book. And our hinge is going to sit beautifully right in there. And then we'll put pieces of paper to cover up over here. And look. All right. So the next thing we need to do is cover the back of this in tape. So again, I'm sure you could use the sheets if you've got some dexterity issues. I've honestly never done that with the hinge, but I'm sure you could. You can get wider tape than this. I think you can get up to 2-inch tape. This is 1-inch tape. Yeah, like I said, this is the workhorse of your album, so you want to make sure that your hinge is going to be in the book securely. And that's the end of that roll. And so that as people are turning pages over the years, there won't be a problem. It won't let go. Some schmutz on that. And like I did before, I'll put some wet glue on this to give me a minute to make sure it's exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so now we take this off. Put wet glue on it. Get that all straight. Hold this up. Remember these 2½ inch scores that we scored? You're going to want to make those come right on evenly on either side of these score lines that we've got here, or right on top. If we're lucky enough, they're right on top, which is what I had hoped. But get it even up and down. I'm sorry about my head. If you only use wet glue, that's fine. A lot of people do. I would burnish it. I'll come back in a few minutes and re-burnish it. Make sure you've got all the gussets. So you've got it stuck down, you've got a hinge, you've got a gusset, a hinge, a gusset, a hinge, a gusset, and on like that. Then I've got 2 pieces that are 5½ by 5½, which is the same height as our hinge. So this is going to come out here and cover that. Don't worry about the writing, you're not going to see it. I can turn it upside down. It's going to get covered with designer paper. And some people don't even do this step. Some people just put the designer paper in here. I just like for my book to look like this when I get started on it. So I try to make an even border around there. I always have a little baby wipe, a dry one around, and then mush around your glue to get into the fibers. Again, I'm still not bending this book. I still want that glue to set a little longer from putting the cover on. Okay, same thing over here. Excuse my head. So there's your album cover, the inside with your hinges, and I'm leaving it flat. So the next thing I need to do is make our signatures. And we have 6 of them. What we will do is they will look like this when we get them done. So here's the ones for this book. So you're going to cut 6 pieces that are 6 3/4 by 6. Nope. You're going to cut 6 pieces that are 6 3/4 by 5 3/4. I messed up. So I need to trim these puppies. Six 3/4 by 5 3/4. Five 3/4. 2, 3, 4. I should have 2 more over here. Oh, there they are. I left 2 to do with you guys. 6 3/4. That's 6 3/4. Yep, I messed up. Okay, we only needed them an inch longer on one side. I'll show you why here in just a second. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so these are 5 3/4 by 6 3/4. We're going to score them a 1/2 inch on the 6 3/4 side. Yeah, on the 6 3/4 side up here at a 1/2 inch. And then I flip it over because I don't trust it to be accurate. So on either end, 6 3/4 side, 6 3/4 is up here. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch. And another 1/2 inch on the other side. Okay. Now, turn these and burnish them down. And there's 2 ways to put these kinds of signatures together. So some people like to set theirs on top, make it all nice and even, and glue along this little tab here and put it together, and it'll look like this. And that's fine, no problem. It still accomplishes the same thing. I put mine inside. So I cut mine a little narrower. So I cut it at 5 5/8 by 5 3/4. So it's 5 3/4 this way and 5 5/8 this way. So it's a little bit narrower and will fit inside here. And then I put a little bit of glue. Rub it into the fibers of the paper. Same thing here. Now once we get these signatures put together, we're going to stop for the night. I don't want y'all to get bored, and you can get caught up if you're doing this along with me, and I will work on the next part of it tomorrow. So see, then you end up with a piece like this. So what happens is this goes over your hinge that you just made, and you have a pocket here. So just like these signatures, they all have a little pocket that we can put a journaling card or memorabilia or anything in. And again, you can do it either way. You can have it with these little tabs here, or you can have the tabs inside, but don't glue the tabs to the back because you need that space to get it over the hinge. So you want them all to look like this when you're done, whichever method you use. Lay this in here, and I get it nice and flat because you want this piece not to buckle up. You want your signature to be good and flat when you put it in the book. So this will be the back of my signature, and this will be the front. So this will be page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Now we'll do 5 and 6. Again, I haven't folded my book on its creases, and I won't until we get together next time. I usually let my books sit about 24 hours when I cover them. Let the glue get good and dry. Let's see, I got a little bit of glue in there, so I'm going to wipe it off because I don't want it to stick to the back. It seems a little short. Two more to go. I love making albums. I love the creative process, the next part where you figure out the flips and everything and what you want to do to make it function. That's the fun part. Last one. The paper I'm using is Recollections from Michaels. When it goes on sale, I buy it. This is 65 pound, and that's what I usually use for my covers. And for my bigger albums, I use 100 pound for my pages inside. And I can buy that from Michaels also. They've been putting it on sale, 100 sheets of the 100 pound for $9.99, and I've stocked up on it. I think they recently had this on, but I had already stocked up on it a while ago. So I keep white, craft, and black. So if you're somebody who's gonna start making a lot of albums, you may wanna do that. So this is it. We have a cover, a front, we have our hinges, we have our signatures, and that's all we're gonna do tonight. And then when I come back, we're going to work on putting all the flips and deciding what we want to do. You know, if we want to put any of these kinds of flips, fold outs like this. So this is the fun part when we get to design this. And so tomorrow I'll start recording that and have that part for you, and hopefully have it up in the next day or two. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're still here, thanks for sticking to the bitter end. I really appreciate it. Thank you for asking me to do this tutorial. I love teaching people how to do this. It's so easy, and we can get through it. Again, if you have any questions, just put it in the comments. And when I upload this video, I'll put the measurements in there for you. If you liked this, please give me a thumbs up and comments, and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate y'all. Thanks. Have a great evening. This is Terry Marcus with the Yaya Collection.